The massive Saint Bernard didn't just block the toddler, he shoved her. It was a violent, desperate heave of his 180-pound body that sent 2-year-old Lily sprawling across the nursery floor. When Mark witnessed this from the doorway, the snap of his patience was audible. He saw his daughter crying, his dog panting with what looked like aggression, and a pristine yellow wall that seemed perfectly innocent. He grabbed the dog by the scruff, ready to throw him out of the family forever. But what Mark dug out of that wall 10 minutes later would make him fall to his knees and beg the animal for forgiveness. Before watching, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another heart-gripping story like this one. The farmhouse renovation was meant to be the start of their forever life, but 6 months in, it felt more like a slow-motion collapse. Mark and Sarah were living in a construction zone, navigating a maze of plastic tarps, drywall dust, and mounting debt. The stress hung over them like a physical weight, turning their once easy laughter into sharp, biting arguments. But the center of their anxiety wasn't the money or the mess. It was Barnaby. Barnaby, their 5-year-old Saint Bernard, had been the soul of the house. He was a rug that breathed, a gentle giant who let Lily paint his claws with watercolors and tug on his ears. But the moment the contractors finished the nursery, the crown jewel of the renovation, Barnaby changed. He became a ghost, haunting the upstairs hallway. He stopped eating. His coat, once glossy and thick, turned dull. He paced incessantly, his heady paws clicking a maddening rhythm on the hardwood floors at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. "He's losing it, Sarah," he whispered one night, staring at the ceiling as the pacing continued above them. "He's snapping at the air. He's whining at walls. It's senility or a brain tumor." "He's stressed," Sarah murmured, exhausted. "He knows the house is chaotic. Give him time." But time was running out. The behavior in the nursery had shifted from anxious to obsessive. Barnaby refused to let Lily near the south corner of the room. It was bizarre. If Lily waddled towards her toy chest in that specific corner, Barnaby would intercept her. At first it was subtle, a nudge, a body block. He would lay down on her path, becoming an immovable, firm mountain. Sarah, trying to find humor in the exhaustion, had filmed it. She'd said, "Look at this," showing Mark a video on her phone. In the clip, Lily was standing hands on hips, scolding the dog in her toddler gibberish, waving a finger right in his face. "No, Baba, move," she shrieked. Barnaby just sat there, head low, eyes sorrowful, taking the verbal beating but refusing to inch sideways. "It's cute," Sarah had said. "It's not cute," Mark had replied, his voice tight. "Look at his hackles. Look at his ears. He's not playing, Sarah. He's guarding. And I don't know what he thinks he's protecting her from, but I don't like it." The breaking point arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. The house was quiet for once. Mark was working from home, trying to focus on a spreadsheet, when the silence was shattered by the sound that no parent ever wants to hear, a guttural, menacing growl, followed instantly by the thud of a falling body and a child's scream. Mark didn't think. He reacted. He knocked his chair over, sprinting up the stairs so fast he nearly tripped. "Barnaby!" he roared, his voice shaking the walls. He burst into the nursery and froze. The scene was a nightmare. Lily was on her back, crying, not from pain but from shock. Barnaby was standing over her, his massive chest heaving, his teeth bared. But he wasn't looking at the child. He was facing the corner of the room, barking ferociously at the empty air. "Get away from her!" Mark lunged forward, grabbing Barnaby's collar with both hands. He yanked the dog backward with all his strength. "You bad dog! What is wrong with you?" Barnaby didn't fight back against Mark. He let himself be dragged, his paws sliding uselessly on the carpet, but his eyes never left that corner. He let out a high, keening whine that sounded more like a human noise than a dog's noise. "Out!" Mark shoved the dog into the hallway and slammed the door. "That's it. I'm done. He goes to the shelter tonight. I can't risk him biting her." "Mark, wait!" Sarah rushed in, picking up Lily. "He didn't bite her. He pushed her. He pushed her away. He knocked her down, Sarah. He's dangerous. I'm not waiting for a tragedy to happen. I'm handling this." He turned to the corner of the room, the object of the dog's obsession. He wanted to hate it. He wanted to punch the wall. "What is it?" he yelled at the empty space. "What are you looking at?" He marched over to the toy chest and kicked it aside. nothing but baseboards and the new pale yellow paint. He crouched down, furious, ready to prove that the dog was mentally broken. See? Nothing. Absolutely not. Mark stopped. He was down on his hands and knees, right where Lily played, right where Barnaby stood guard. And suddenly, the air didn't feel right. It wasn't just a smell, it was a sensation, a heaviness, a metallic, rotten taste that coated the back of his tongue instantly. It smelled like old eggs wrapped in burning rubber, but it was clinging to the floor, thick and suffocating. Mark blinked, his eyes suddenly stinging as if someone had thrown sand in them. He coughed, a dry, hacking cough that rattled his ribs. "Sarah," he rasped, the anger draining out of him, replaced by a cold, creeping dread. "Do you smell that?" "Smell what? It just smells like paint." "No, down here, get down here." Sarah hesitated, then lowered herself. Within seconds she recoiled, covering her mouth. "Oh my God, what is that? It smells like sulfur." Mark pressed his hand against the wall. It was hot, not warm, hot. The drywall itself felt feverish. He looked at the electrical outlet near the floor. The white plastic plate was yellowing, warped slightly at the edges. "The screwdriver," Mark ordered, his voice trembling. "Get me the toolbox, now." When Sarah ran out, Mark put his ear to the wall. He could hear a faint hiss, a tiny, microscopic sound of chemical reaction. His head was swimming. The dizziness was getting worse, a black static at the edge of his vision. How long had Lily been playing here? Hours? Days? Sarah returned, dropping the toolbox. Mark grabbed the screwdriver, his hands shaking so hard he could barely fit the head into the screw. He twisted it, and the plastic cover popped off. Black dust poured out like soot. The copper wires inside weren't copper anymore. They were corroded, eaten away, covered in a black, flaky substance. The smell billowed out, concentrated and lethal, making both of them gag. "Open the windows," Mark screamed, scrambling backwards, grabbing Lily from Sarah's arms. Get out! Get out of the house!" He didn't wait for an answer. He ran down the stairs, carrying his daughter, his lungs burning. He kicked the front door open and collapsed onto the front lawn, gasping for the clean, cool autumn air. Sarah followed, pale and terrified. But Barnaby wasn't with them. "Barnaby," Mark yelled, looking back at the open door. The dog came stumbling out a moment later. He didn't trot. He dragged himself. His legs gave out halfway down the porch steps, and he collapsed onto the grass, his tongue lolling out, gray and dry. "Oh God, Barnaby!" Mark handed Lily to Sarah and crawled over to the dog. He buried his hands in the thick fur. The dog's heart was beating erratically, a thumping, panicked rhythm. By the time the fire department arrived, the entire neighborhood was watching. The hazmat team went in wearing full respirators. It took them 20 minutes to come back out. When the captain approached Mark, he looked shaken. "You have defective drywall," the captain said, pulling off his mask. "It's a specific batch of imported material that was banned years ago. It emits high levels of hydrogen sulfide and formaldehyde gases, especially when the weather warms up or the humidity rises." Mark stared at him, holding Lily's hand tightly. Is it deadly? In an enclosed room? For a toddler with small lungs? The captain looked at Lily, then at the house. "Sir, the concentration of gas at floor level, where your daughter plays, was toxic. It causes respiratory failure, brain damage, and eventually, it stops the heart. If she had slept in there one more night with the door closed..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. But the smell," Sarah whispered. "Why didn't we smell it sooner?" "You're tall," the captain said simply. "The gas is heavy. It sinks, it pools on the floor like invisible water. You wouldn't smell it until it filled the room. But down there, it was a kill zone." He pointed a gloved hand at Barnaby, who was receiving oxygen from a paramedic mask on the lawn. "Your dog knew it," the captain said quietly. "Dogs can smell parts per trillion. He smelt the poison the day the wall went up. He wasn't aggressive, son. He was desperate. He was putting his body between your child and a cloud of poison. He was absorbing it so she wouldn't have to breathe it." Mark felt the world tilt. The memories crashed over him. The scolding, the shoving, the jealousy. It wasn't jealousy, it was a rescue mission.
Every time Barnaby had blocked that corner, he was breathing in the poison. Every time he stood there, taking Lily's abuse and Mark's yelling, he was acting as a living shield, filtering the air with his own lungs to buy the baby a few more minutes of safety. The dog wasn't sick from stress. He was sick because he was being slowly poisoned while saving their daughter. Mark walked over to where the paramedic was working on Barnaby. The big dog opened his eyes. They were bloodshot and weary, but when he saw Mark, his tail gave a weak, forgiving thump against the grass. Mark dropped to the ground, wrapping his arms around the massive, smelly neck. He didn't care about the neighbors staring. He didn't care about the mucus or the dirt. He wept. He buried his face in the fur of the animal that he had almost thrown away, sobbing apologies that felt entirely inadequate. "I'm sorry," Mark choked out. "I'm so sorry. You good boy."